I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, an issue is debate. On the right, Tomi Lahren. On the left, Ethan Bearman. The issue is the 2024 presidential election. Then,
this is terrorism. Terrorism.
Sheryl Sandberg's self-described most important work ever fighting back against sexual violence in Israel. Plus,
I have tried to live my life in service, Elex.
California's U.S. Senator Laphonza Butler in service as she marks 1 year in office. And finally, what did Stephen Colbert say about the issue is this week?
Broadcasting across California, you're watching The Issue Is.
Are you ready for this? I'm not sure I am. Welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, an issue is debate on the presidential race. Joining us from her home studio in Nashville, Tennessee, our returning champion, Tomi Lahren. She is the host of Tomi Lahren is Fearless on Outkick and a Fox News and Fox News radio commentator. And here in studio is Ethan Bearman. Good to see you, Ethan. He, of course, is an attorney, the owner of the Bearman Law Firm, and a professor at Loyola Law School. Ethan, Tomi, good to have both of you back with us. Welcome back to The Issue Is.
Thanks, Elex.
It's good to be here, Elex, and I feel for you guys in California. I'm happy to be in Tennessee, but I do miss seeing the both of you in person. I'm still glad I get to join you, though, because you know that although I don't like the way your state is run, I love a lot of the people in your state, so it's great to join you from Tennessee.
We'll take that. All right, ladies first, let's start with you. The debate is Trump versus Harris. I think I know where you're going. Tomi, your case for voting for Donald Trump.
For me, as you know, Elex, I'm almost a single-issue voter at this point. Immigration, or I should say the mass invasion, is really top of my mind, especially after this week when we learned that FEMA funds that cannot get us through hurricane season, but $640.9 million of that FEMA funding has been allocated to help state and local governments care for illegal immigrants. To me, that just tips the scales, and I think those few people out there that are still on the fence, they need to pay attention to this. The American economy and our American cities simply cannot take 4 more years of open borders, simply cannot take 4 more years of a Democrat in the White House. Kamala Harris will tell you that she's a new path forward, but the truth is she's been in office for almost 4 years. All these great things she talks about doing, she could be doing right now. So to me, it's pretty obvious. We want to move forward, but we also want to return back to the days of Donald Trump with prosperity and also national security and domestic security for all.
Ethan.
It's simple. The Biden economy, more jobs created than any other president since the Great Depression. And we have the issues of bodily autonomy for women, women's health care. The Republicans are doing everything in their power to restrict and remove the ability of women to protect themselves and their unborn children as needed, but themselves in particular. We also have issues like taxes. Should we just be giving everything away to the billionaire class? That's what Trump has promised yet again. Actually openly got caught selling out to the oil barons of the 21st century. And let's not forget Project 2025, putting loyalists exclusively in the federal government is Trump's plan. That's not democracy, that's autocracy. Let's protect that democracy that we cherish so much.
Of course, Trump has said that he dismisses Project 2025 and that he's not going for that. So let's not get too deep into that, but let's talk about what he did. And Tomi, Ethan brings up the issue of abortions. We know you're pro-choice. This week we learned that Melania Trump is pro-choice. You say that you're a one-issue voter when it comes to immigration, but there's a lot of people out there that are one-issue voters when it comes to abortion rights. Does it not concern you what has happened during the Trump administration when it comes to abortion rights?
So it certainly does not, and I say that as somebody who has been quite controversially more on the pro-choice side because I am for limited government. But I'll tell you this was reiterated, I thought, beautifully at the VP debate this week where J.D. Vance said, and Donald Trump tweeted to solidify it, that they will not sign a federal abortion ban. It is up to the states. Roe v. Wade was overturned. It was sent back to the states where the American people in each state have the ability to decide for themselves and for their state what they want to do on the abortion question. question. And there's going to be some states like California that are going to have unfettered and unlimited abortions. Good for you in California. There's going to be other states like mine here in Tennessee that are going to be more conservative. But at the end of the day, your voters get to decide that. And I know that Ethan's going to say, yes, women shouldn't have to travel for abortions. And I understand some of the horror stories and I sympathize with those. But if we're talking about this, I mean, I can tell you I had to leave the great state of California because of policies that I didn't like. It's unfortunate that people have to choose based on the way their state votes if they want to live there or not. But that happens to be the reality of the situation.
When you put it in the hands of the states, especially a thing like bodily autonomy, that's actually liberty of the women themselves that we're talking about. And when states like Texas actually try to hunt down people who not only seek abortions, but anybody who dare to help them leave the state, we have really serious national issues, not at a state level.
The right has, to me, a more realistic approach than the left, which doesn't seemingly have any restrictions and believes that 9 months is okay for an abortion. So I understand that this is a heated topic. It's a big gray area, but I think the American people are going to have to sort this one out in their states.
Not everybody on the left believes that 9 months is okay for an abortion, but let's move, Tomi, to the issue that you brought up, which is immigration. And Ethan, we see polls reflecting that voters believe that Trump would be stronger on the issue of immigration. It's a huge concern for a lot of voters. Your take on that?
To say that Donald Trump will be any better is almost a joke because his so-called wall has already failed endlessly where it was built. They immediately built ladders that climbed over the top. But furthermore, let's actually get to the key issue here. When Congress finally had something where there was bipartisan support, top Republicans were behind the bill. It was Donald Trump's cry that, oh, it will help Joe Biden that got all the Republicans to vote against what was a rare occurrence of bipartisan support for a bill to actually address immigration. My concern is both parties benefit from making this a hot potato issue every single election, and any real solution never gets discussed.
Tomi.
I know it's easy to point to a talking point saying the bipartisan border bill. That really wasn't a border bill at all. It was a foreign aid bill disguised as a border bill. It normalized 1.8 million illegal aliens into this country per year. Now, if you're okay with that, then that's another discussion. But a lot of Americans are not okay with normalizing and codifying an invasion at our southern border. It afforded lawyers to illegal immigrants. I've had several attorneys like Ethan on my show that specialize in immigration, and they say, listen, once you start affording these people immigration attorneys, any good immigration attorney is going to stretch this process out 5-10 years. By that time, these illegal aliens have already had multiple children, and it's almost impossible to remove them from this country. The bipartisan border bill, I understand it's a great talking point for the left, but it would not have solved anything, and it would not have done anything with the 10 million plus. There was no deportation guidance in that border bill. So the majority of Americans support mass deportation, over 50%. It's time to start dealing with the problem. I know that the Democrats just want to fast track these people to citizenship and voting rights, but the majority of the American people, they don't want to see that happen.
I mean, I have to speak up just for a second, Alex. If you're going to mass deport over 10 million people, rounding them up and shipping them out, first off, that is horrific from a human rights perspective, but more importantly, it ignores the economic impact. There's a reason that prior Republican administrations, such as George W. Bush, were pro-immigration. It's because the big business, the donors behind many politicians in both parties benefits from having lower cost labor that Americans won't do. Remember that there was an effort in places like Florida to get Americans to take the job. They jacked the wage up and Americans wouldn't do the work. They couldn't do the work. Many of these jobs are not something that Americans want to do. What's important, to Tomi's point, is that we need a functioning visa system for people to come here and work.
Well, one thing is clear. Both parties have not really wanted to solve this issue. When Democrats had complete control of Washington, they didn't move an immigration bill. When Republicans had complete control of Washington, they didn't move an immigration bill, in part because donors and activists on both sides have tried to stop it. Tomi, if Trump actually gets in there, do you think that there's going to be a real change?
Well, I believe, to Ethan's point about the mass deportations, it's always interesting to me when those on the liberal side clutch their pearls about deporting people that came to our country illegally, but they completely dismiss what these people and their impact on communities. Now, listen, I do believe that a lot of these people are good people, that are families that are fleeing countries that are far worse than ours, and I understand that. And I don't blame them for coming to our country if given a free pass. But the fact of the matter is, our cities and our states simply cannot handle the load of millions and millions of illegal aliens in their communities. So while I understand it's not going to look nice to have deportations, the American people and our country simply cannot sustain and maintain what is currently happening. And if you want to talk about wages, when you pump millions of illegal aliens and you give them work authorization, all you're doing is driving down wages for the American people. That is something that you also have to contend with.
There is a middle ground that is rational, that's achievable. We've shown it in the past over the centuries here, even in the United States. We simply have parties who refuse to meet in the middle and do something that's rational for the American people.
Well, it is great to see both of you, and we appreciate the fact that we have an actual civil debate about issues that matter. So many shows these days only show one side, and it's nice to be able to hear from really smart people who are respectful to each other. Ethan, Tomi, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Up next, Sheryl Sandberg remembers the October 7th attack in a profound way. Stay with us.
I knew that something bad is going to happen.
The documentary Screams Before Silence profiles sexual violence during Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th and beyond.
He came towards me and just pointed the gun really hard at my forehead.
The screaming and we got shot. And then silence.
Sheryl Sandberg arrived in Israel to bear witness. For 14 years, she served as COO at Facebook and wrote the #1 best-selling book, Lean In, focused on empowering women.
A year ago, I was not this active at all.
Sandberg says October 7th changed her.
This is the most important work of my life. And maybe everything I've done has led to this moment.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? We met up with Sandberg at the Museum of Tolerance, where she hosted a screening of the film. Sheryl Sandberg, welcome to The Issue Is, and thank you so much for making this film.
Thank you for having me and for the attention you're bringing to this. I'm super grateful.
And it's, you know, a sobering place where we are right now, the Museum of Tolerance. You look around us and Anne Frank's image here, and there was so much silence during that period. And you think of this, Screams Before Silence, which that title has a lot of meanings, it seems like. What does that title mean to you?
I mean, that title is, I think, two things. One is literally about people who were sexually assaulted and raped and then killed. Most of the victims of Hamas's brutal sexual assault and violence on October 7th have died. They were killed. And so it is their literal screams before silence. But I think it's also the screams before the silence and worse, lack of belief that this happened.
And why it's so important to get the word out there. And for you, you have built up this extraordinary platform through so much hard work. You could pick any topic to be the thing that you're shining a light on. Why this topic? Why was this so personal for you?
Because I think so many years after we taught everyone they needed to believe women, and I was part of that, and really, like, we have to believe women, the politics of our time are so polarizing that people are turning a blind eye to something that has to always be true. This is a humanitarian crisis on all sides. War is never acceptable, but no matter what you believe should happen in the Middle East or anywhere else, sexual violence should never be used as a tool of war, and we must all speak out wherever it occurs, and that's why I made this.
And one of the big takeaways from this is that this was the strategy. It was not only let's get in there, let's kill people, but raping people was part of the plan.
Correct. And what this film gives people an opportunity to do is not to hear it from you, not to hear it from me, we were not there, but to hear it directly from the eyewitnesses, and importantly, mostly eyewitnesses to what they saw on dead bodies, because most of the victims were killed. And that makes this very different than many situations. But there's one thing that's not different, which is that we have to stand united against any time sexual violence is used as a tool of war.
You're there with them as they relive this. How does that experience change you?
It's hard, but it's so much less hard for me than for them. I mean, you walk with released hostages into their home. It's all in this film. Where like father and husband was killed, sister was killed, taken. These are peace-loving people living in a kibbutzim on the border because they believe in peace with their neighbors. You sit there and you listen to, or you stood, I guess, grown men crying. Grown men, these huge men, they tower above. I mean, you are fairly tall too, but this guy towers above me, and he is looking at trees and crying because those were the trees where he saw bodies, naked, but bloodied. This is what this is.
That's what we have to talk about.
And he's crying because he didn't save enough of them, even though he saved many. Right. This is something the world can't stand for, and we have to understand that this is terrorism. Terrorism by people who absolutely say they want to end Israel. They want death to Jews. They want death to America. They want death to our values. This is not just about the Israelis and people of other nationalities, including Americans who were harmed and taken captive on October 7th. This is about a threat to our values, and we have to fight against that terrorism.
Well, I know as an interviewer, sometimes you're supposed to remain somewhat dispassionate, but it looked like there were several moments where you put your arm out or gave them a hug or felt their humanity and wanted to be there for them. I mean, what was that like for you?
I tried, to be there and understand, not understand, I guess, but be there and make sure they knew they weren't alone and thank them for what they had gone through and for the bravery to share their story so we can all stand against this.
How has this film has been out now for several months, been seen by millions of people, over 1 million views on YouTube. What does that reaction mean to you? And talk about what you're hearing back from people.
Well, I'm grateful that we were able to put it on YouTube so it can be viewed for free by anyone. What I hear over and over again is, thank you. I didn't know this happened. I didn't believe it happened, but it's just, you can't refute it when you hear it directly from these people. So I'm hoping more people watch so that we can fight this together.
We're just at this museum of tolerance, which has looked through the history of anti-Semitism for so many generations, thousands of years really. How do you put this moment in historical context? And what does being here amongst all of this while seeing this, how is that something you're thinking about?
It's such a good question. In my lifetime, I'm 55 years old, I thought anti-Semitism was largely a thing of the past. Stories my parents and grandparents told me, my great-grandparents fleeing from Europe pre-World War II, as so many did. I'm lucky they did. But I don't think that's true anymore. I think the anti-Semitism is real. I just dropped one of my children off in college and walking. It was like the parent fair for all the stuff for the parents to see. And there was a booth that said, safety and security for Jewish students. A year ago today, because we're not yet at October 7th, if you had told me I was going to drop my kid off at college and I would walk past that booth with a line of people there to find out how to keep their kids safe, I would have thought you were crazy. But that is the reality for our kids. And that's unacceptable. We have to fight hate, intolerance in all of its forms, including anti-Semitism.
Well, this helps to do it by shining a light on what's really happening. Thank you for making it, and thanks for all the work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you for this.
Really appreciate it.
Watch the full documentary for free anytime. Search for Screams Before Silence on YouTube. We'll be right back.
I will. Congratulations.
1 year ago this week, Laphonza Butler was sworn in to represent California in the U.S. Senate and replace the late Dianne Feinstein. We joined the senator on her 1-year anniversary for an exclusive interview during a special service project.
Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Senator Laphonza Butler.
Laphonza Butler is the first U.S. senator to visit Project Angel Food. She's quickly put to work, volunteering in the kitchen next to me.
I have tried to live my life in service, Elex.
This kitchen making over 3,500 meals a day for SoCal's sick and hungry, powered largely by volunteers.
When I was on the board of the Children's Defense Fund, Marion Wright Edelman said to me that service is the rent we pay for living.
Project Angel Food CEO Richard Ayub recently met Butler at an event and told her about the work. In 35 years, they've served over 18 million meals.
We do medically tailored meals. So if someone has diabetes, our meals help bring down their A1C levels. Everything is geared toward the illness and grounded in research.
The senator making tofu meals for those battling heart disease.
My father died when I was 15 years old. And my father died of congestive heart disease. And I think about whether or not, my dad maybe would have lived longer if he had access to the healthy kinds of food.
What's your bottom line message to people that are watching this?
Pay your rent. Pay your rent. Whether that is with money that you have or time that you have. These folks need our help, they need our support, and the people that they serve need to know that their neighbors care about them.
They do such great work. If you'd like to donate or volunteer for Project Angel Food, head to angelfood.org. Up next, The Issue Is, featured on The Late Show. Stay with us. One-word reaction to the debate tonight, Lisa.
Respectful, surprisingly so.
John. Civilized. We like that. Maybe we'll see that with you too as well tonight. This week, we hosted a bonus edition of The Issue Is right after the VP debate with John Cobalt, Lisa Bloom, and also Melanie Mason. Thanks to everyone who watched, including, apparently, Stephen Colbert and his team from CBS's The Late Show.
This felt like almost like going back into the past of like, this is what VP debates sort of felt like in the normal times.
Hey, you know what's not normal? Celebrating how normal something is. Our special tonight is a perfectly normal, nothing to see here piece of chicken that is definitely not the chef's foot that fell into a pot. It's served on a bed of Dr. Scholl's. Bon appetit.
If you want to watch that debate show, you can do so right now at youtube.com/Elex Michaelson. And you can listen to our show in podcast form anytime, extended interviews. Just search for The Issue Is wherever you stream. Thanks for watching. See you next week.